Connecticut and federal police forms and their families in overt criminal enterprises and their families and private ones at the same time on Facebook too. The intersocial media, the FBI has roles changing and faking what's communicated by people. And they've been getting away with that and with other predicate acts associated with other natures of organized crime roles and readings of statutes where and how they value that, where and how at the same time they're going to jump into people. How many police forms are there? And they jump into people's conversations on a mass scale, pretending they don't understand them, pretending they're trying to judge what if they says are true or not, only to change it. And then they can't afford to go back and have discerned what nature shows us about police procedures and other sciences. You know, that they're changing what nature communicates and what our founders communicated. A human fact should be nature breaching method and is one of the things inside the subject of our communications that we also know were partially liberated by them having declassified after their, after the fact about how everything they said and that everyone said was measured and maintained through our own collusions while everyone pretended other to an extent. Other, Otherwise, they sense that body, including if the body was a majority of people, including if it was everyone, and that was adapted to. It's per a method that had slavery sickly and distinctly entrenched northern colony with black. It was against everyone if you pay attention to what was solemnly intention with the laws, sickly distinctly, but also sickly non-distinctly against everyone. And it was used functionally how that was left out, even though it was positive. Hyper positives can be made that by that with everyone at once. Then everyone has a unity that is not just about BS, which we should call Badiados, by the way, but I'll get to that in other words. So, leading up to, my name is Anthony Wall. I'm from Wethersfield, Connecticut. News of from with New Haven news locations and their family members and people next to them. And Rocky Hill has their Connecticut's WFSB Channel 3 News. And they attach me to fake conversations with themselves and with others. And they have lawyers that changed what I said to them in a short conversation. See, lawyers on a mass scale, they have lawyers on all sides of criminal and civil cases. And the lawyers and the courts' names and their family members and their sources at the same time, planting the same sequence shifts and predicate acts at the same time with the news and names next to relative body dumping spots and murder spots and roles with recorded uses of people and of their sensibilities where they want to speak about if they're honest or not about it, where they're all dishonest. And you guys are getting away with it because you're changing and faking what people say regarding such things as World Trade Center predicate acts. Leading up to the World Trade Center, names in the World Trade Center next to it and at the court next to it. On both sides of that case, in the court itself, involved with changing from inside the court that day, right before the World Trade Center attack. Legal papers that was proven after, post dating them to make them look as if they'd been presented late to the court. It was proven that they had been brought to the court timely, time stamped. And then that proven that led up to it instead of that was in Manhattan, right next to the World Trade Center. That proven that led to a 2006 district court case, which is involved with a whole bunch of people next to Fox Connecticut News, next to WFSB, and next to WTNH, who have been roles with predicate acts and with predicate acts with facts methods as complete strangers to me. That also some of them went out of their way to pretend other, with the ones that were going out of their way to pretend that I don't know at all, like a Joshua Julian on the Facebook page of a principal child defender, upskirt nature. I caught involved with that before that on and off campuses and with people with shopping centers who are also reportedly having countered that. Reportedly, they're demonstrably, in other words, there are people on and off Two Route Highway and Hangdog Lane who are increasingly involved with all kinds of natures of organized crimes and federal evidences rackets. And they had lies told about to me so they could repeat it. And then, in other words, ones I don't even know their names at all. In other words, increasingly people there that had, in other words, and the ones that made fake exceptions are involved with their family members of judges, involved with wire crime acts and predicate acts with the same house, and roles with their neighbors, with body dumping spots, wire crime acts and methods, and relative falsified police reports, and police refusing and courts refusing to identify themselves legitimately relative to their roles, with databases illusion stacking at each campus I went to, and connected uses of names from off the campuses that influence his names on there. Increasingly names next to a kindergarten I went for 1 year has a DeMora family and a Schedule family and I forgot the other name of it. I believe it's a Finelli family involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me with the intelligence community and the FBI, foreign and domestic military, their roles with forensics names, state police. In other words, let's get them on paper. Their educators too are involved. Let's get them on paper in other words, these are people involved with stacking fake conversations. A whole bunch of people at Central Connecticut State University. I never saw Joe DeMora. I saw his cousin, Joe DeMora, at Central Connecticut State University too. Recorded involved with the FBI there and with female and male intelligence. Involved also with differences rackets with some black KKK, Confederate flag themed, and people all along Route Walker Hill Road in Wethersfield involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and medical offenders of kids. With all sides of campuses, increasingly there as collusions with everyone repeating fake things and putting fake things there, even acting with the news, were filming fake things, and then investigators use such. They've been showing fake transcripts to presidents. There are proofs, and they will not communicate with me. Increasingly, they have roles with unmarked police forms, with Wethersfield Avenue, and the names involved with the police chief Cintron and the FBI and the other police forms. I forgot his name. One of them, even on Facebook, they took away people's Facebook pages because things are being confirmed on Facebook they can't afford to have confirmed, because on a mass scale, the formal identities of the law have been collusions with all kinds of natures of organized crimes and readings of statutes that summarize them, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Where and how they've been using that criminally foreign influence while being and haven't been used for criminally foreign influences that were kids. You use remotely. A Perone family will tell you I never sought them out in my life. I only know them seeking me out to confess and demonstrate things and pretend others simultaneously. In other words, same thing with a Kerr family. All exceptions to, they use criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, rot, sequence shifting with the judges involved, criminally foreign influence. Increasingly, there's a Judge Killian and a Judge Smith involved with medical offenders of kids in my area, named Smith and Cololo. Also, there on YouTube, Ray Cololo used the word psychedelic. He's involved with wire crimes with a Rick Cianfaglione, with some prosecutors and judges and doctors at Hartford Hospital with the name Leahy, and others, ones recorded with that name and other names that Anthony Agman brought up. I forgot which name he used. But that guy is also recorded involved with ones associated with the Smith family's mother, a David Smith and a Jamie Smith, and their roles with the Ukraine and Russia, with and fire departments, with Hartford Hospital, running into high live aggressions, running into with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and use/s of those fake exceptions, and totally made up ones fake, like a Joshua Julian. These are also some black white female judges with some KKK, Confederate flag themed, Latino themed, Italian themed, Pakistani themed, all brought up at once. Afghan themed, state police. Increasingly, state police tied to Eric Jensen and Whiting Forensics has roles intercities and interstates and with names along the Berlin Turnpike with his educators that influenced him to predicate acts roles with some black KKK Confederate flag team sequence ships and people putting fake conversations behind my back with their teachers, including the leaders of the campuses I went. In other words, Mark Violette will tell you this too. And Mike Violette, they have roles with the names next to Hartford Hospital through time. And that girl who was dragged to her death, or reportedly dragged to her death, from next to Hartford Hospital near Tomorrow's Market was at the time. From there, all the way to the corner of Goodwin Park and Jordan Lane, which also has something to do all around. That's on, I think it's like Ridge Road and Jordan Lane, that corner it was at, where right at the southeastern corner of Goodwin Park. And so Mark Violette and Mike Violette also had roles with the intelligence community with that corner, and with people associated with Goodwin Park, 3 spots at the end of the Bone Turnpike, with names at the Capitol and next to it, and with the name Sharkey, and their roles with a Timothy O'Brien, and I believe that was him standing in a dress when I was jogging, and he was standing there with a grandfather of a Ray Colot at the corner there with the people across the street from them. I don't even know their names. I heard it was a Wydell, people related to Wydell. I don't know if it's still the old family. I don't know what. But that has something to do with, in other words, with also there was a guy that looked like he was, might be that took a picture right when we came to the corner. And he was lying about his motives. Like I was taking corner with my mother. Because I caught them, because I forced my mother to call the police one time. And I yelled at her. And I told her I would just do it without telling her why until she called the police. And I was just violent and made, the whole, probably everyone scared. And the police, I caught the police before I did that. With overt criminal enterprise, private ones in foreign countries, with the names involved with the black and white, KKK theme, Confederate flag theme, with this Kevin Dillon too. And names that planted evidence on all sides of my house and methods of it when I was a kid. And I learned more about it because people associated with them made confessions and demonstrations at other places I lived, intercities. Increasingly, there was a Lucinda who will tell you, I never had a conversation with her in my life. The only time I ever saw her, we had a conversation about their roles with the side of Central Connecticut State University. Her husband has roles with foreign and domestic military, planting evidences with, I don't know what campuses he went to. I only saw him one time real quick on my campus with the girl in my grammar school I never had a conversation with in high school, right before we graduated. And that was her confirmation of her roles with people from intelligence with Newton, with Central Connecticut State University, involved with a whole bunch of different countries, planting identity theft, frauds, fake conversations with people by doing tricks too, by having people say things to people that don't even know them right when they're going to go around a corner and lie about the motivations of it too. And then there was never a conversation, but they're pretending other. But there was a conversation. And the difference of that is used also in relative ways. Because these are people, the World Trade Center attack. Gayle King has roles increasingly with a Gary Sasso and people tied to a Gary Sasso involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, with Hartford locations and West Hartford and next to Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut. Confirmations, demonstrations, also roles with intelligence on all sides of that, intercities involved through time. Like, in other words, Channel 3 News, WFSB is in Rocky Hill and Elm Street, and a whole bunch of people tied to them from Wethersfield, and their educators influence them to pretend fake things, and they put fake things in databases. And they'll tell you this, as the ones involved with WFSB, with World Trade Center predicate acts, and they won't communicate with me. I'm not going to communicate with them digitally because I never did. And already the police have been changing and faking what's digitally recorded, and real fast. And then again, they took away my Hotmail. In other words, and they took away all the police messages, and they hid what I recorded them, record, express, demonstrate, confirm doing, while pretending other with the principal child offender. Thank God, proven off campus anyway. But they've been digital crimes with him. They've been replacing what's actually digitally recorded on a mass scale. Whole bunch of police departments with the names Cololo and Smith involved with the names I don't know that know my name, and the police forging and switching names. At the same as the courts, as the ones involved also with Scaloras, people with the name Scalora and their educators at Central Connecticut State University. They're also involved with the Saudi attackers and the international business and the different departments at Central Connecticut State University. The English department increasingly has people roles on my street with the English with retired police chiefs from Wethersfield involved with predicate acts with the English department, foreign and domestic military, and people involved time use /S of relative body dumping spots use /S roles, including if they're made up and they have some kind of training or something like that, because they have so many people and so coordinated with roles with Wethersfield Avenue through time. And the stories on Fox Connecticut News is increasingly with people involved with collusions with the natures of organized crimes associated with those areas and predicate acts relative. We have, no, there are people with the name, I forgot that name. It's the same name that went after Osama bin Laden. And she's also further involved with Whiting Forensics with more World Trade Center predicate acts with WFSB too. Whiting Forensics is in Middletown, Connecticut. And they have state police families as the ones with interstates. Like Jensen, Mike Roberts are involved with a Cololo family and people associated with them, with conversations with them with predicate acts, federal evidences, crimes, all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the courts at the same time increasingly planting sequence shifts and collusions with the people at the crime scenes and next to them, and news at the same time screening other names' involvements. And with the World Trade Center attack, WFSB, do what's right and take me out for fake conversations with you without delay. Why would you even keep doing stories? Why don't you get me a response for the other things I recorded? The police chief Cintron involved with you at Rocky Hill at WFSB, and next to you with the intelligence next to you, a whole bunch of intelligence next to you involved with foreign and domestic military too. WFSB, please do what's right and get them on paper, one name in sequence, and have them apologize for the digital crime acts and methods and roles of the departments of Hartford Police. And what's the last name of this officer, or what's the full name of this officer, Hunter? And what's the name? Because a whole bunch of people at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, recorded an Officer Hunter involved with them with sexual and medical crimes. And I believe he's half gay. In other words, on Park Street, there might be a picture of him trying to field me up or what he's doing. And he's involved with he's a little coward with the court with the Hartford courts and their family members involved with the name Amy or Emily with Eric Burgess and others who asked for requests for help, and then I tried to get the help, and everyone's been all increasingly people I asked for help changed and faked what I said and hid what I say, and they made things up and put delusions. And they increasingly tied to people that just totally fake conversations with me at the same time. A whole bunch of people tied to Reno Mazzucato. I don't know his brothers and sisters' name, but they have roles with New Britain locations. And like where they changed the name of the street, I'm gonna find out the name of that street. It used to be, I forget it. In other words, Normandy Heights has something to do with a Brian Silver too. With a whole bunch of people with New Britain Superior Court tied to a Brian Silver involved with foreign and domestic medical families that have been fabricating conversations with people and putting drugs and medicines crimes on people, even fake uses of drugs and medicines crimes also in databases, increasingly with people at and next to the Wethersfield Community Center and next to the corrections offices and judicial branch offices involved with their educators too, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and they'll tell you this. But it was is also from people from off those campuses. Increasingly, a Miss Riley, algebra class teacher I had, has roles with relative falsified police reports and arrested me when I was in her class, and relative to her having repeated things sexual about my neighbor. I kept trying to mind my business, and they were planting evidences with their Jewish themed people that are increasingly tied to Mike Roberts, people that aren't even Jewish, who have federal evidences crimes with that. Has something to do with their roles with the name O'Brien with lobbyists and or as lobbyists. I don't know if it's Jewish lobbyists or what, but increasingly they have roles with people from Korea involved with medical corruption with them and putting fake things in databases behind people's backs at grammar schools and between with private school kids that mix with some of them go in and they put illusions and they're building people need to hide details and need to relative to they're also just pretending repeating fake things on a mass scale. The right to lie was used where they don't have the right to lie. In that phrase, there's a former FBI director, James Comey, who is the phrase "the right to lie," with Congress recorded individually grouped together using with the judicial branch, the executive branch, how they're used remotely, individually, but also grouped and also together. And there are three ways criminally foreign impulse, tactically delusions raw. And the differences of them most criminally involved with that, or the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, or the foreign or the domestic intelligence. There were use/us roles with the difference of that collusions covering up with really, in the foreign name. I mean, in the scientific value, the name of the scientific value of the human fact, true nature breaching method. Again, that replaced in it as a value inside the actual communications of America's founders that they declassified. And we were directed to refer to our founders as those behind and as James Madison and his plan. Our founders are distinct from the presidents. And our founders knew that people would say, oh, well, presidents could also be considered founders. Yes, but they knew they were criminal insidiously involved here. And they're changing and faking what our founders communicated to us. We are communicated to refer to our founders, plural, as those behind and as James Madison and his plan. And then they went and got George Washington to agree to help them and to use that plan and to counter-extort and force other founders at key locations in more than them colonies, north and south, already with slavery against blacks, sickly distinctly, but already entrenched north and south. Slavery, but slavery against everyone too. We're going to examine this. And we're going to examine how sickly distinctly no one is allowed to demonstrate how Americans really are hurt the most. And because of the relativity of how sickly non-distinctly we're also not allowed to communicate about, or they change and fake our words. And how this has gotten away with it is recorded only having been gotten away with because of reliances upon predicate acts with facts into databases pretended. All kinds of behavior racketeering worse than war crime roles with the names intercities connected. Increasingly, Hartford Hospital has an institute of living with increasing a whole bunch of people tied to them have been planting predicate acts at and next to the campuses and with people at the town offices and the corrections and judicial branch offices. Also, criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions wrought with them. All kinds of natures of organized crime roles and against humanity under the names of healthcare too. They've been charging people. They've been charging all kinds of scams while they pretend other too with Anthony Agman, with Social Security, with doctors associated with him, fabricating things in databases. His roles with Kensington Intelligence, Berlin, Connecticut. There's a Wayne, I don't even know his last name, he knows my name. He's involved with a former a Dean Judd from Central Connecticut State University, involved with the FBI and other agencies, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, his co-defendants, their family members, also with names next to the campuses, intercities involved. Quinnipiac University is also increasingly involved with them, with people associated with judges and prosecutors, associated with Kevin Harris, involved with federal evidences crimes, with foreign and domestic military, identity theft, fraud, slanders. His family's involved with medical offenders of kids, putting fake things in, and with the daughter of a principal of a campus I went to, involved increasingly with people with the news, tied to more principal, more people with the news, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a person who has, I don't know if she has, this is only her maiden name, but there was reportedly Michelle Sandquist. I had no conversation. She told on me one time about having a knife that I ordered through when I was in 6th grade through a mail catalog in the library. But it has something to do with a former Mayor Gold, an intelligence family that lives on Fairlane, has roles with her with some Jewish themed and interreligious spots themed in the difference of that racketeering roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, also note Jewish themed, because these are also people with judges and courts and prosecutors and mayors and their family members and neighbors increasingly involved with predicate acts and identity theft, fraud, slanders, and people that make timed exceptions of them knowing me for that. Eric Jensen will confess, demonstrate, confirm roles with this. People all along Hangdog Lane and Two Route Highway have roles with state police and people with the South Civiello. I don't even know what. I never saw him on a middle school or a grammar school. And Eric Jensen, I never saw him until I was in junior year. And the class he put me into was the class I was put into by the school. When he was in the same class with me. It was increasingly involved with people with Black KKK themed, Latino themed identity theft, fraud, slanders, and people with all sides of criminal and civil cases, like a Mike Pandolf, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, where they make fake exceptions of knowing me, specifically for the roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases, and news, and the interbranch putting the same sequence shifts in there. Increasingly, I have teachers with their kids tied to Mike Pandolf, who are involved with the World Trade Center attack through those other natures of organized crimes. And fake nature ties to me that were exploited by the FBI. Former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, clearer than day, kept with the identities of law at countries A through Z, incapable of defending themselves and of affording discern how we are grouped, and we have people speaking about our group differences, tactical terror from how nature communicates about it. Nature shows us we have the same color eyes and different color eyes. At the same time, nature is showing us about difference. Nature is showing us about similarity. Nature is showing us we are the united species body, while of individual bodies, while independent simultaneously as value. All group differences come with demonstration of its identity of relativity and value by what is independent and by what is unity distinctly, but also non-distinctly, and simultaneously, but also / hyper simultaneously. Not just the same, equally, but distinctly. That's what, in other words, nature shows us to appreciate how its identity is distinct, non-distinct, simultaneous / hyper simultaneous. Who disbelieves will have inherent to, active to, progressive to the reason and defenses of their disbelief. They will have demonstration of the same things. Vaccines. That's just eggs alone. So please, WFSB, get me off the fake conversations with you about the World Trade Center attack, and let's get the police chief Cintron involved with the intelligence next to your location with the games with that on paper, one name and sequence with Pronto. These are intercampuses, and next to them names involved too, with WTNH planted stories with them, all along roads and routes, all along Route 175. Increasingly, it has something to do with it. People at Trinity College, increasingly tied to a the names I've mentioned on. They've been lying about what they think when people typed on Facebook, and they made fake Facebook pages pretending to be me. Then they started making overt confessions because they need to hide what came first and measure and maintain the courts. Self-value rolls with that because they had collusions. Increasingly, Brian Silver and a whole bunch of people at New Britain Superior Court have roles with predicate with names from other areas that can make confessions on my street tied to them, and their roles with the Leahy family and medical offenders of kids and of adults, fake conversations with them, all kinds of evidences rackets, and already roles, all kinds of predicate acts way worse than they had roles putting little kids and adults in jail for. In other words, and kids in other words, increasingly, New Britain Superior Court has roles with people that were in my algebra class, involved with the teacher having repeated sexual things about a Jewish family's daughter in my class, and that's the class I was arrested in that while I was in that class. I didn't respond to it. Something to do with the FBI's roles with names at and next to Fox Connecticut News, WFSB, and WTNH, and they are hiding this from Judge Napolitano, and they have roles with criminally foreign influence readings of statutes of precedents and all kinds of evidences, rackets, and sick natures of lawyers associated with them, including the ones that are placing advertisements on the news, like WFSB has roles with also other news locations with a Trantolo and Trantolo, involved with all kinds of evidences, rackets already with the courts and the state judicial branch offices and the state judicial and the corrections offices, and all along those routes tied to them. In other words, black pupils. Here, let's get them on big paper, one name in sequence. Here. That's all who disbelieves. Who disbelieves.